Hello and welcome to JUMPSCARE, quick reviews of short horror games. The show that I bet you thought I forgot all about because I kind of did for a while there. Oops. I play a lot of indie horror games over on my other channel. I just find it super fun to see what small teams and single developers with limited resources, yet unlimited imaginations can do. And today we're digging deep into the Gloom, a world of head-scratching puzzles, strange enemies and cryptic stories. That's right, we're playing Post-Trauma. This game was generously gifted to me by the developers Red Soul Games and publisher Raw Fury, so I just want to say thank you so much. When Roman wakes up in an abandoned metro car, he has no idea where exactly he has ended up or why. The station seems a bit familiar, but it has been twisted into a nightmarish parody of itself, with monsters, fleshy tendrils and bizarre riddles covering the place head to toe. As he digs deeper and meets others who are similarly stuck, Roman realizes that he's caught in something called the Gloom, a hellish realm that seems to twist itself based on whoever currently resides within it. But what is the Gloom? How did Roman end up here? And how exactly do the other folks stuck in the Gloom tie into everything? What? Don't look at me, I'm the one asking you. I mean, I played the game, I'm still not sure. In case you haven't guessed yet, Post-Trauma is another in a long line of classic survival horror-likes. Third-person cinematic camera angles, deliberately clunky combat, manual save points, some minor inventory management. You name the survival horror gameplay mechanic and Post-Trauma has it. However, it does take its inspiration more so from Silent Hill than Resident Evil, and focuses more so on creepy twisted environments and head-scratching puzzles than on combat encounters. In fact, if you're here because you saw some pictures of the gross and interesting looking enemies and you can't wait to duke it out with them, you might want to temper your expectations a little bit. Combat encounters are few and far between, and once you have a grasp of Roman's movements, they're not particularly threatening, existing only to heighten moments of pre-existing tension. Because of this, ammo and health pickups are equally rare, and while that does sort of make them feel like a precious resource, a little bit more action in places would have been nice. I mean, even Silent Hill 2 knows how to throw a mannequin or two at you to keep you on your toes every once in a while. Now, this might be a different matter on a higher difficulty level, but on normal, the game ended up feeling a little bit empty in my eyes. But hey, you're really here for the puzzles, and as far as I'm concerned, they're definitely the most fun part of the game. You're encouraged right on the Steam page and in the game itself to keep a pen and paper nearby, and they're not kidding. You're probably gonna need it. While many puzzles still boil down to figuring out a number code, it's just a bit more complicated than just finding it on a slip of paper somewhere. You gotta combine environmental snippets of information, use logic to decipher certain symbols and patterns, and even take a few surprisingly mundane steps to solve strange situations in order to get through this game. And since you never get a handy little journal to keep all your information in one place, putting the dots together lies entirely on your own shoulders. I, for one, love solving puzzles in horror games, and the ones found in Post-Trauma are definitely a few steps above the ones you find in many other indie horror games. They're decently challenging, but they're mostly perfectly fair and sensible, with one or two exceptions that could use an extra environmental hint to teach you the logic you're supposed to follow. Interesting characters, grotesque enemies and fun puzzles aside though, Post-Trauma does have its fair share of little problems. This one might just be a graphic setting thing on my end, but transitions between chapters seem to always come with these weird pop-ins, and there's a plethora of rooms that, while creepy and detailed, end up serving very little purpose since there are no items to find and you aren't always guaranteed a puzzle hint. This is one of those places where a bit of extra combat could keep things more interesting. The camera is also a bit of a crapshoot sometimes. There are some gorgeous cinematic shots that really show off the environment, but it can sometimes be hard to see where you're supposed to go, especially since you can only find maps on certain walls. I definitely spent a few minutes trying to figure out where the heck to go on occasion, and you don't want that from a game all about environmental puzzles. It's fixed a little bit in a few first-person segments that switch up the gameplay style a little, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. Mind you, the game works and plays perfectly well, but it definitely has some rough spots that could use a bit of straightening out. But how does Post-Trauma hold up as a horror game? I mean, is it scary? Does its cast of characters lend themselves well to a strong narrative that is full of interesting themes? I'm not sure how to answer that. To say the least, Post-Trauma's story is confusing. It goes for a sort of dreamlike atmosphere where it's interesting and unique characters speak in riddles, and the game definitely asks you to put some story pieces together yourself, without actually telling you if you got it right. Post-Trauma wants to be Silent Hill very, very badly, and sometimes it comes really close with its perverted versions of everyday locations and its great atmosphere. but it also sometimes comes across as being cryptic for the sake of being cryptic, rather than because it actually has something to say. I think the main problem is that you actually learn so little about the cast that whatever themes the game throws at you kind of fall flat. I mean, think about James in Silent Hill 2 for a second. He always had the driving quest of trying to figure out why he received a letter from his dead wife to keep the player invested. But Roman just kind of wakes up at a train and then he doesn't start saying things that give you an idea of why he's there until the last act of the game. You just don't really get super hooked. And while you meet some characters that seem to have their own entire stories going on alongside Roman's, similar to say Angela or Eddie in Silent Hill 2, they rarely intersect with yours in particularly meaningful ways. Everyone just ends up talking in circles whenever Roman questions them, and you'll likely find yourself feeling just as confused as he looks. In fact, after playing the game, I found myself following some breadcrumbs in the dialogue to Wikipedia to try and get a sense of what the game is actually about. And while that was definitely fun and interesting to have to analyze your way through the story like that, I feel like the game itself should have had a couple more hints to let me know if I was on the right track. You know, just so I get some sense that the game itself actually knows where it was going. Not even the 4 harder to find than you'd think tapes or the game's 2 endings clear things up all that much, which also kind of lowers the game's replay value. There just aren't a lot of extra things to discover. But with that said, I still think Post Trauma is a hell of a game that deserves your attention. If you can live with not having the story spelled out for you and just want to solve fun puzzles in a gross and spooky environment, then Post Trauma is pretty great. With a $15 or so price tag, availability on most platforms, and 4 to 5 hours of gameplay, you're definitely in for a fun time. I mean, yes, there's definitely some touching up to be done, and it could stand to have a better action to exploration balance, but hey, those are fairly minor issues at the end of the day. And while the game may not have a personal identity that's quite as strong as something like, say, Crow Country, I'd still recommend just about any classic survival horror game fan to go for a stroll in the Gloom. I, for one, would love to see what else this universe has to offer. And that's this episode of Jump Scare. Thank you once again to Raw Fury and Red Soul Games for gifting me a Steam key. I really do appreciate it. Now, if you'd like to watch me actually play the game, you can either click the card or follow the link in the description. And while you're down there, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more quick spooks in the future. See you in the next one, folks, and bye bye.